This year, I have probably been experiencing what I would consider to be one of the worst reading slumps I've ever been in. I don't think I've finished a book since mid-February or somewhere around there, and I've only read 4 books this year. And it's been really, really rough, okay? I have just not been able to finish a book. I think it's in part because I've only really enjoyed 2 of the books I've read this year, and even then, neither of them were all-time favorites or anything like that. And the other 2 I didn't really like, and so it's been kind of like this weird mix of reading a lot of subpar books, but nothing that's given me a very intense emotional reaction or response, either good or bad. I haven't been very passionate about any of them, so I think that in part put me in this slump. But also it's just been like a really hectic, insane year already. It's just been a lot going on in my personal life, so I just haven't felt motivated to read anything. I have been watching a lot. Like a lot. And I'm actually kind of considering making an entire video about all of the movies and TV shows I've watched this year because it's well over 20 for each of them, which I know is kind of crazy. But I set a goal for myself to read and complete 50 books this year, and anytime I go any extended amount of time without reading, I start to not feel like myself. So I really want to get back into reading books, and I want to finish a book. And I know to some people this might sound kind of crazy because it's only been like about a month and a half since I've read anything, which I've gone longer than that not reading a book. But I don't want to extend this slump any further. So today I want to talk to you all about some of the books that I am planning on reading / currently reading, because I have started a couple, to get myself out of a reading slump. I've made videos before on books you can read to get yourself out of a slump and tips and tricks that I use to get myself out of a reading slump, like reading shorter books or rereading books and reading things by authors you're familiar with and like already. But I'm kind of throwing all of those out the window because I don't think those apply to my current situation. I'm in this place where I feel like I just need a really good book that's going to ignite something in me, that's going to get me completely immersed, something that will take over my life. I need a new hyperfixation, if you will. So I'm trying to pick up books that I feel like have a very high probability of doing that for me. So there aren't that many of them, but I did span different genres because I feel like I need that variety right now. But if you're struggling with a reading slump this year, I'm very sorry, and I see you, and I understand how annoying it can be when you really just want to read, but you just can't get yourself to read. And I feel like I've given myself the time to kind of just not even think about reading for a little while, but now I'm in a place where I know I want to, so it's time to push myself and finally get back into it. Before we get into my list of books that I plan to read, I want to thank the sponsor for today's video, which is Book of the Month. Book of the Month is a bookish subscription service that sends you a brand new hardcover book to your door every month. Every month they have a curated list of books that you can choose from. They focus mostly on debut and up-and-coming authors, but they always have highly anticipated new releases, and they also sometimes have backlist titles, so there really is an option for everybody. One of my favorite things about Book of the Month, as I always say, is their incredible pricing. You can get your first box for just $5 with my code PASTEL, and they always have free shipping. They also do include audiobooks as a format that you can choose if you prefer that to receiving a hardcover book, if that's your preferred reading method. So yeah, I love Book of the Month because they make discovering new books to read very easy. So let me show you the choices that I selected for April. So my first pick is one that I'm really excited about because this book looked so good, and it's called Dragon Fruit. And this is a YA romantic fantasy book based off of Pacific Island mythology. I also just feel like this is going to have everything I like. It's a story about a girl who is studying sea dragons. So we have dragons and the sea, and I haven't really heard anything about it, so I'm excited to discover something new. And my second pick is another one I'm super excited to check out, and it is the reappearance of Rachel Price. But this is a YA thriller about a girl who's trying to discover what happened to her missing mother while filming a documentary about the unsolved case. I'm excited to read a thriller. It's been a while since I've read one, and I feel like I could really use it. If any of those picks interest you, or you want to check out their other picks, be sure to check out Book of the Month and use my code PASTEL to get your first book for $5. But now moving along into the books that I plan to read to get myself out of this reading slump. So like I mentioned, I have picked books across different genres, and this first one is a little bit hard to place. It feels a little bit like literary fiction at times, but it's definitely somewhat fairy tale-esque, a little bit gothic as well, which are all things I really love. So this should really motivate me to read. And it's a book I have actually started, and it's one I've been reading for like a couple months now. I just haven't picked it up since like February, but that book is Rouge by Mona Awad. This follows the story of our main character whose mother recently passed away, and she's kind of dealing with the grief and the complicated emotions that come with really really assessing the relationship she had with her mother. And our main character is utterly obsessed with skincare and beauty. And when I say utterly obsessed, I mean she will literally look at someone's face and assess every single like skincare product she thinks they need to use. You think that the like 12-step skincare girlies on TikTok are bad? She has you all beat. She has like a 50-step skincare routine. It's wild. But at its core, it's really a story about beauty and our obsession with beauty and what is on the surface, and also her relationship with her mother, and if that relationship really was any deeper than she had always thought it was. It's really, really interesting. This book hooked me from the very, very first page. The prologue of this is probably one of the best prologues I've read in like a really, really long time. I'm just gonna read you the very beginning of this because I sat down, I read the first page of this, and I knew I was gonna be obsessed. And yes, we can ignore the fact that I haven't picked up the book in a couple months. There's been a lot going on, but I'm telling you, this will hook you. She used to tell you fairy tales at night, remember? Once upon a time, when you were a sad, dreamy little girl, each night you lay in your princess bed, surrounded by your glassy-eyed dolls, waiting for her like a wish. Tick, tick went the seconds of your snow-white clock. The moon rose whitely from its black clouds. And then, knock, knock, Mother whispered from your bedroom door. Come in, you called in your child's voice. And she did. She came in and she sat down on the edge of your bed like a queen, didn't she? Cigarette between her white fingers, exuding her scent of violets and smoke. All right, Mother said. Which story do you want to hear tonight, Belle? Belle, French for beautiful. It's what she called you, even though you were a beastly little thing. Not at all like Mother. She was fair, slim, and smooth, remember? Like something out of a fairy tale. Like the dolls that lined the walls of your room. It was Mother who'd bought you those dolls. Positioned them in every corner, every nook, so no matter where you looked, you saw their glossy hair, their fair skin, those lips of red that were always sort of smiling at you, like they all had a secret between them. And it just gets better and better. That's like just this first chunk of the page. I loved this. I loved this from the start, so I really need to finish it. You all know I love a good gothic dark fairy tale. It's very much my type of thing. I've been so into that in the past like year or two now, so I'm very excited to continue with this. Hopefully this will be the next book that I finish. I'll like pick it back up again and it'll be the thing that pushes me to keep reading everything else. But if for whatever reason I am not in the mood to keep going with this, I do have other options. This next book is the one that I really think will truly pull me out of a reading slump. It's the one I feel like will do one of two things. It'll either fully pull me out of the reading slump and I'll get completely back into reading and pick up everything, or it will be so good that I won't be able to read anything at all again. So this could really go kind of badly for me, but I'm putting my faith in the first option. Hopefully that's what happens. It's just so good that it makes me want to read everything else just to find something that's as good, but who knows. But that book is Lady Macbeth by Ava Reid. This is an advanced reader copy, so this book doesn't actually come out until August, but I was lucky enough to be gifted an advanced copy from the publisher, so I'm so grateful and so excited. I got this like a few weeks ago now, and it's just been sitting there kind of taunting me because I know I want to read it and I know that I should. I just have not had any motivation. So I really just need to get myself to pick it up because I know the second I start page one, I'm not going to be able to put it down. That's what happened with me and A Study in Drowning. I love Ava Reid's work and this is her next adult novel, and I really love her adult books. Macbeth is one of my favorite Shakespeare plays. I just know it's going to be dark and gothic and everything I love in a story. So this one will be kind of similar to Rouge. This is obviously going to be a bit more historical and fantasy than that one is, but still in somewhat of the same vein. I just really want to read something so good that it feels like it changed my life. And I feel like it's been a while since that's happened to me and I need that back again. I really, really need it back. So the next book on my list is another new release slash unreleased book. I have an advanced copy of this in ebook format, but that is Funny Story by Emily Henry. I am so grateful to have an advanced copy of this, and I've had this one for a while. I just haven't been able to pick it up. This is the type of thing that I feel like I love to pick up during the spring and summertime. It's usually a lighter, more fun, shorter read, and Emily Henry always does pack that emotional punch as well, which I do like in my contemporary romance stories. So I'm very excited to pick this up. I feel like I'm really gonna like it. I know it's probably gonna make me cry because Happy Place did make me cry, and I feel like this one might be more along the same lines of something like that one compared to her earlier books. I just know I'm really gonna like this, and so I feel like if I need that contemporary romance novel, this has to be the one that I pick up next. I'm not even sure when this comes out. I think it actually comes out this month, so it may be a good time to pick it up while everyone else is reading it. Maybe that will also motivate me, which would be very nice. But yeah, if any of you have read this yet, please let me know what you think, because I could use that push to finally get around to it. Okay, so we've covered some reimaginings or retellings, some gothic fantasy, and some contemporary romance, but I also feel like I just need like a classic YA fantasy series to get into. And it's something I feel like I've been missing for a while. I just feel like I don't have that series right now that I'm so immersed into that really just consumes my life. And so I feel like it's finally time that I actually pick up Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. Everyone talks about this series like it is phenomenal, and I know that it is. It probably really is, and I probably will agree with everybody, but I've just been putting it off for so long, and I feel like it's finally time to just get over that, pick it up, and get myself fully immersed, fully into what is probably a wonderful series. I believe there are 2 books out right now. I think the 3rd one probably comes out this year, which is great because then I have a couple books to binge, which will be wonderful if I get really into it. That's exactly what I need. I've heard the series has great romance, wonderful characters, and a cool magic system. Based on the description, it sounds like your classic YA series with everyone's like favorite tropes, and I mean that as a compliment. And this just feels like the right YA fantasy series for me to pick up next. So yeah, please motivate me to read this in the comments below. If you've read it, tell me exactly why I need to read it and exactly why I'm gonna love it, because I need that push. I need that push to finally get to it. Okay, and then the next book on my list is actually an audiobook that I have, and I feel like some of you are gonna be surprised by this choice, and some of you are probably gonna tell me not to read it, and maybe you'll be right, but maybe it'll also be the thing that I need to motivate myself. But that is Lapvona by Ottessa Moshfegh. So let me explain. Part of the reason I want to read this is because one of the 4 books I have read this year is Eileen by Ottessa Moshfegh. That was like the 3rd or 2nd book I read this year, and I really enjoyed it, actually. It was weird and dark and grotesque and disturbing in a lot of ways, but I really enjoyed something about that book. Personally, I think it's much better than My Year of Rest and Relaxation, which I read last year or 2 years ago, I think now. While I didn't dislike My Year of Rest and Relaxation, I don't really see the appeal that most people see in it. I just found it overall pretty average. There were aspects of it that I enjoyed, but overall it wasn't a standout book to me. But Eileen was really interesting, and from a writing perspective, I really liked that book and I found it fascinating. And I've been wanting to read Lapvona for a while. I know people say this book is really disturbing, like really grotesque and really dark, but there's something about the way that she writes her most gruesome graphic scenes that doesn't mess with me in the way that other books sometimes do. And I really do find the way she writes to be fascinating, and from that perspective I really like examining her work from like a writing level. So I do really want to read this book. I feel like it'll be the right type of weird to kind of just get me to pick up something new. I know it came out last year or a couple years ago now, and everyone was talking about it then when it first came out, but I really just want to see what I think of it and how I feel about it. I might end up hating it, but that's also okay because at least it'll make me feel something. But yeah, I'm just super curious, so hopefully it ends up being something that one way or another sparks that fire in me and gets me to either rant about it or read voraciously afterwards, because I need to find something else as fascinating. So yeah, that pretty much covers it for all of the books that I plan to read / hope to read to get me out of this reading slump. I know there aren't too many here, but this kind of just like served as like a currently reading video / a TBR, mostly to motivate myself to keep reading, to pick up books, because it's been rough. It's been really bad, and I don't want this reading slump to get any worse than it already is. So if you have any book recommendations or tips or something for me, or if you've been struggling with a reading slump, help each other out in the comments down below. We can get through this. That is to say, I have been reading, because I've been reading lots of fan fiction, in part for a video I want to make, and also in part because that's what happens to me when I'm feeling depressed. I stop reading books and I go reread old favorite fan fictions. But it's different than reading a book, and I know when I start reading too much of it, my brain is just not doing well. So it's really time to close out of my 12 dozen AO3 tabs and open up a book, so I can get my brain back to where it needs to be. But yeah, pretty short video for today. I just really wanted to update you all on this because it's just been a really rough reading year, but hopefully we're turning things around. But if you'd like to follow me on any of my social media, all of my links are in the description box as always. But thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Bye!